coming right up now with two heavyweights in the crypto industry. It's my pleasure to welcome Raullen Chai, co-founder and CEO of IoTeX, and Jake Brukhman, founder and CEO of CoinFund, to the stage. And these guys will be having a candid fireside chat on the state of Web3 in 2023 and some of the next big trends that will be shaping the real world. So let's give them a hand, guys.
All right, Jack. Thanks for
All right.
coming to our event.
Thank you for having me. How's everybody doing?
Great. Everybody want to kind of stand up, do a little bit strange? Sounds like this.
All right.
All right. Yeah, maybe.
Fight through the jet lag.
Yeah, Jack actually flew in like
A couple of days ago from New York.
17 hours.
17 hours.
Like 1 hour worse than me, basically. I'm flying from San Francisco, 16 hours. Yeah. Maybe Jack, you can just kick off, give a short intro about yourself and CoinFund, please.
Absolutely. So I'm Jake Brukhman. I'm founder and CEO of CoinFund, which is a blockchain investment firm whose mission is to champion the leaders of the new internet. We've been doing that since 2015. So we're in our 9th year of, full immersion into crypto investing. By background, I'm a engineer. I studied math and computer science and worked in the hedge fund world and then in pure tech at Amazon. And I guess to be topical, at CoinFund, we've invested in some of the earliest DePIN networks like LivePeer, Filecoin, and I guess more recently, Demo.
Yeah, that's really great. Talking about CoinFund, right? So you guys start to invest from the year of 2015, like one of the OG fund in the crypto industry. How do you see your kind of investment thesis actually, evolve in the past few years, especially, with respect to how to make real impact to the real world?
That's a really good question. I think what marks our journey in the crypto space is like a constant evolution of what the narrative is for blockchain technology and decentralization technology. Back in 2013, 2015, it was all about cryptocurrency. In fact, if you read our kind of like original white paper from back then, there wasn't even a concept of smart contract in it. It was just all about like cryptocurrency networks. And then over time, I think, like it's gotten, the scope has become broader and broader, and the number of applications of blockchain have proliferated. I think, there's so much to say. It's like it's such a big question. I think what's happening now, just to bring it into sort of the present, is that we're at a time where we've built a lot of supply side in blockchain. So we have every possible combination of L1 technologies. We have those things scaled. We have those things interoperating. And it's really time to go to market in many different areas of blockchain, from stable coins to DePIN networks, right? Yeah. And really prove that these technologies are capable of supporting real commerce, real big businesses, creating the efficiencies that we say that they create, and I think also to be like honest about what has not worked.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, with this one, definitely like I want to ask you something around DePIN, because I know you guys are like a big investor into Demo and LivePeer and Filecoin in the early days, right? So DePIN actually shows significant promise to the decentralized world. From CoinFund perspective, what do you see as the most critical challenges or obstacles that need to be addressed before DePIN actually goes to the moon, which everybody wants here?
Well, I think that the key challenge is to bring this technology to market. When I think about LivePeer, this is a project whose, I think we were one of the first investors to read the LivePeer white paper back in 2016. And the proposition of LivePeer is to do video transcoding that is cheaper, more efficient, and more decentralized than the video transcoding that you would get on Amazon Cloud. Has LivePeer delivered on that promise? I think so. I think if you look at kind of some of the benchmarking that they've done, it turns out that you could do video transcoding on LivePeer 10 to 100 times cheaper today. But you would think that like everyone would drop everyone who cares about video transcoding would drop everything that they're doing and then immediately start using LivePeer. That's actually not the case, because you have to let people know that you've built this technology. You have to have a go-to-market. You have to have customers. You have to sell this new technology into enterprise companies. And it turns out that like costs are not the only dimension upon which companies make the decision to use a product. They also make decisions based on brand, who else is using it, requirements, and so on and so forth. And so I think we're at a point where it's just the beginning of the journey for a lot of these networks. And some of them are quite mature in terms of being like technologically complete. Some of them are just starting out. But the real challenge is like actually getting scale, getting people to use them and taking advantage of some of those value propositions that they bring.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So we IoTeX, we are working with DePIN projects, DePIN developers, in many different perspectives, right? So to me, the challenge here is strange to see, because everybody here knows DePIN, maybe knows about Helium, right? Which is a very successful DePIN project. Like they're building everything kind of down, from scratch all the way to our consumer-facing our products, which is really good. But we saw the pattern for a lot of DePIN projects trying to copy what they did in the past, without thinking too much about how many people they have, how much money they raised, right? So for now, we're seeing a very small DePIN project, which is usually the case, 3-5 people, less than 10 people. They are trying to build something like change the energy sector or change the car sector, which becomes kind of something, not reasonable. So one of our biggest thesis here is DePIN should be modularized, should be compartmented into different modules. Basically, we should have some sort of composability, right? Not just on the technical level, but on different perspective. Like you said about the sales. So sales is a big function in a lot of startups or corporations. So sales itself actually has its know-how and everything else, right? So it should be component in a way. And maybe financialization, like a DeFi, should be one of the biggest a component for even a lot of DePIN projects. And down below the stack could be the verification of the machines. Did it actually do the job? If you drive 5 miles, should someone pay you $5? So on and so forth. So that's kind of, I feel the lack of a very fundamental sound thesis is the biggest challenge for DePIN. Yeah.
So I kind of think of DePIN as one vertical of blockchain of many possible go-to-markets. What do you how do you think about DePIN? How do you see the future of it? And is it a more compelling vertical than other verticals? Is it more decentralized? What are the advantages of if you were a founder and you wanted to work in crypto? And you're like, should I work in DePIN? Should I work in stablecoins? Should I work in DAOs? How would you what would you say to that founder?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Actually, I agree with you, right? So I feel DePIN is the next generation of sharing economy, right? So we already witnessed the magic of Uber or Airbnb actually conquering the world in just a few months or few years. I feel DePIN is actually this a same paradigm. That's even more kind of thorough in terms of the user actually or investor owns the protocol, owns the network. So think about in the future, maybe 5 years of now, everybody uses just a Web3 Uber, right? So Web3 T-Mobile, a Web3 version of Airbnb. So it actually will be part of our life, which I do believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe because I work at Uber, in the year of 2016 to 2017, so I know how it sucks internally.
Well, so it's funny. I remember being pitched decentralized Uber as early as 2016, and actually also looked at one last year too. Do you think that the technology has, I guess, matured enough that we could now support such a network?
No, not necessarily. Like I said, like a big part is this decentralization verification, right? So this is a technology that is missing right now because blockchain is slow. You can argue like a Solana is fast, but it's not fast to the degree that kind of Uber data center can process. Think about how many cars are running worldwide and how many data packages are actually transmitted in and gets computed, so user can actually get their car and getting paid, right? So that's why we are working on this WebStream project. It's like an off-chain compute based on zero knowledge proofs. We want to have this super fast validity proof, so we can enable use cases like a Uber, use cases like a Airbnb, and even some other more crazier use cases. Yeah, how do you think about this one as well?
How do I think about like an Uber or?
Yeah, how do you think about from now to the Web3 Uber, what are the missing kind of milestones in between?
Well, maybe counterintuitively, it's actually like off-chain computation, believe it or not, plays a huge role here because if you actually think about what Uber does, now it's true that it's a kind of a physical network and you need cars and all kinds of mechanisms to keep those processes safe. Like the core business of Uber is actually facilitated by basically machine learning algorithms, right? Like algorithms that find the shortest paths while considering all of the obstructions that happen in traffic, optimizing traffic across cities, surge pricing, all kinds of optimizations are the things that actually keep Uber operating and competitive and defensible. And so can we do a high degree of computation in blockchain today? And the answer is yes, we're starting to do a lot more off-chain computation. Zero knowledge has been facilitating that. And historically, it hasn't really been available that much. So if you wanted to build Uber in 2016, you would run into massive, massive problems just around how do I even implement this as something that is a decentralized protocol. It's you can't. That's starting to change now.
Yeah, definitely. So, I know CoinFund, has been definitely looking into a lot of the deals or startups or founders, right? So where do you see the most transformative innovations which is happening in the industry right now?
I mean, the answer to that changes every quarter. I like to think of CoinFund, as an investor being a very thesis and trend-driven firm where we're first of all able to identify the technology trends and to do it fairly early. I'll just tell you what I've been working on most of this year. About in September of 2022, we published a thesis on the intersection of AI and Web3. I've followed the AI space broadly for many years, just of general interest. And what started to become apparent last year is that you could bring Web3 primitives to AI and start to do AI in a more open manner. And actually, what we see this year is a dramatic shift in where the innovation is happening. A lot of the AI big model optimizations and innovations are actually happening not at Google, but in open source. So Google and Facebook and OpenAI, they kind of originate the big models, and they sort of own the compute right now. But all of the innovative optimizations that brings down the number of parameters of the models while keeping the performance the same really has happened in an open way. And everyone, including Google, knows this. And so Web3, in our view, facilitates a more open pipeline for creating AI models. What does that pipeline consist of? People, data, compute, meaning can we train models? Can we get the outputs of the models? Can we put those outputs on chain for smart contracts to use? And finally, productization. Out of those areas, the most active area in the last year has been training and inference in the form of decentralized networks. And you might even call that DePIN, actually, if a network is providing GPUs. Actually, I saw there was a company doing that out in the hall, right? So AI Web3 intersection is something that I've spent like a lot of time on this year, and we've become investors in Jensen in 2022. Jensen is doing decentralized training. We recently led a round in a company called GizaTech.xyz, which is bringing AI outputs to smart contracts on Starkware. We're WorldCoin investors for many years, and we also have a company called Upshot, which uses machine learning to price like 100 million NFTs individually. Wow. And their machine learning model, it looks like it's going to go on chain maybe within a year, like much sooner than anticipated. So that's been a key area. Zero knowledge underpins all of the advances here. And those two areas are kind of like where most of the focus has been.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You know, like our team actually, we look into AI and blockchain as well, right? So like you said, there are like two angles. You can have AI and the blockchain actually working together. So the first one is compute. So given this, you know, how expensive this NVIDIA card is right now, so definitely like a lot of people are thinking about decentralized version about this like a cloud compute of using an NVIDIA card. So that's the basic things you're talking about, like Jensen. So Jensen was actually in our past events as well. Yeah, and another one is Harry. I love this guy. And another angle is like a data. Did you guys see some like an interesting angle? You know, by encourage people to contribute like their car data, healthcare data, whatever data they have, to actually like feed into like an AI model to make it smart and serve people better.
Yes, I think that's a thesis. I don't know if that thesis has fully like played out in the market so far. So like, as I said before, we're demo investors, and one of the things that demo does is basically create a data union around your electric vehicle data. Like I plugged in my Tesla API into their app. I'm able to contribute data to the network. I'm able to get compensated for that in tokens. Now the secondary question is like, how useful is that data? Where can we use that data? I mean, so far we've seen some like basic applications. Like if you give your Tesla's parameters, you can do something like quickly evaluate like how much is this Tesla worth on the secondary market, and that's already kind of a cool, very simple application. Now, whether that data can be used in machine learning, or whether data unions can produce valuable data for like large language models or something, I think remains to be seen, because one of the kind of key requirements to make a good LLM is to have extremely pristine and very comprehensive and very large data. So I don't know if we're serving that yet, at least right now, but maybe we will in the future.
Yeah, that's very cool. Do you have any question for me?
I do have.
Yeah.
I do have some questions for you. So one question I had for you was, just how IoTeX is positioning itself, in this market, which we know, like having been in this industry for almost 9 years, it's a really volatile industry, as we know. So, first of all, technological change takes place all the time. There's financial cycles. How do you guys navigate that? How do you stay relevant? What kind of products are you working on to make it to the other end of the bear market?
Yeah, that's a really good question, So we talk about this internally a lot, right? So crypto is very different from a traditional world. Crypto is a very volatile world, boom, bear, very fast-paced cycle. So that means like composability is super important here, because you cannot run a crypto project like running a traditional company, right? 2,000 people company, which has a very kind of, kind of top-down structure. Each function does its own job, OKR based, like a perf review. Those things usually don't work in a crypto project, right? Because you have everything kind of shift every 3 months. That's why, as I was talking about, like a DePIN should also have this composability, like a DeFi has. Smaller teams, like a 3, 5, 10 people, can actually do something really cool. based on like a previous modules, which has been done by other teams. In the DePIN space, this is very lacking, very much missing right now. Every project wants to do like a whole stack, which is kind of impossible, and they cannot do this within like 18 months, right? Then 18 months, you already miss the entire boom market. So that's kind of unfortunate, but true. Yeah, so a lot of IoTeX, we spend the time to trying to identify what are the missing layers for DePIN to thrive, basically. The verification layer, the financialization layer, maybe a layer to abstract away all the complexity from the hardware, maybe another layer to try to have a token framework. So, people who's coming from an IoT background can easily plug in their token economics, try to make a good, DePIN project. So that's kind of like what we're working on.
Very cool. Well, because as I mentioned, our mission is to champion leaders of the new internet at CoinFund. We've worked with over 100 venture investments, at our firm, and we've worked with them through these different cycles. And we know there's a lot of challenges to being a crypto founder. Can you share some of the challenges that you guys have had to work through since you're in, and maybe tell people like when were you guys founded, and what markets did you have to work through, and what are like the lessons that you learned from that? Yeah,
that's a really good question, for me to actually recap IoTeX history. So we actually got funded in the year of 2017, at that time. So people had a really high hope about IoT blockchain, right? Internet of everything. So IOTA was a big hype at that time, I'm sure and we're actually second one on the market. But at that time, like the thesis for how IoT and blockchain can kind of like a blend together is very much different now from DePIN. So that's why like a team was born in the year of like 2017. We have 3 co-founders, me and the other 2 who's actually working out there. And we raised like a 40 million in the year of 2018, and we grew up the team to 30, 40 people actually around the world. So we built a layer 1, which is a EVM compatible chain in the past few years from 2017 to 2019, which we launched in the year of 2019. And we very quickly grew like a 200 type of DeFi game, whatever projects on top. Right, so that's a really huge success for the layer 1. Then we start to think about, okay, man, how we do this like an IoT thing, right? So we promised to investor we're IoT blockchain. So we did like a 2 vertical experiment in the past 2 years. The first one is like smart home camera, which basically means you own the private key, you own your privacy. So everything is much around the privacy. So we sold like a 20K such a cameras in the United States, but I don't call it a huge success because we see people really don't care about privacy, right? What you say, it doesn't matter to them. Then we did like the second project, which is a paper tracker. It's a small device we developed in-house, has a bunch of sensors, so GPS sensor, temperature sensor, so you can actually carry and walking around trying to collect data. So this one we got a lot of success because we promised some sort of like token mining on top, saying contribute data, you kind of mine the token. Then we actually sold 2,000 such devices in 2 weeks. So it's like a good success, right? At that time, also Helium was doing really good, which gave us an inspiration or like the chance to derive like a thesis for DePIN, like how everything should work together. And then we actually identify the most important 2 missing pieces, like I talked about. One is decentralized verification. One is sort of like a financialization for the DePIN projects, which keeps the team kind of going and working on. Yeah.
Very good. Are we allowed to take a question or 2?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, we have a crypto founder, and we have a crypto investor. Does anyone have a question for us?
Yeah, we have maybe we can take 2 questions, guys.
Okay.
Any of you?
Uh-oh, jet lag.
That's one problem about DePIN founder. Everybody's very shy,
Yes, sir.
Sure, yeah. Hi, I know CoinFund is really one of the biggest and the leading crypto fund in the West, also in the world. So have you invested in 1 or 2 DePIN projects, and are you interested in the current energy sector? Because that's what I'm building there, and yeah.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we've looked at a lot. We used to call them resource networks, meaning like networks for digital resources. So Filecoin, LivePeer, the Graph, those are the ones that we were storage investors, very early on. Those come to mind in digital services. And then more recently, things like Demo. We're not investors in Helium, but I've been running a Helium node in my house since like 2018. So quite into it, yeah. And in terms of energy, like happy to look at DEX and
Sure.
propositions.
Give me 1 minute after your talk. Thanks.
Of course. All right, we can take another quick question.
I think that gentleman that's fine, that's fine.
Cool.
Yeah, maybe we can take a second.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Mine will be quick. So you use crypto in your ecosystem. So for some countries, like in China, crypto is not really allowed. So how do you overcome that challenge?
That's a really good question, right? Now in US is also facing some like a regulatory risks as well. But I think those things are kind of temporary. Essentially, if you look at like the long time span, 5-10 years from now, I think token will be everywhere. Will kind of be part of the entire like a micro economy. That's my view.
I think as long as crypto is successful in creating commerce, there's a certain regulatory arbitrage that I think works out to most people eventually supporting crypto.
All right, thank you. Maybe we should take a question from this gentleman because he raised a hand actually before. That's
Sure. I've had this conversation also before with Raullen, but I just wanted to ask both of you guys. What do you think is the #1 weakness right now in most of the DePIN project? Because it's a young industry. It's not very young, but it's relatively young. And what is the thing that you see missing in most of the projects that you guys look into?
Well, it's a good question. So product market fit would be a big one. But if you want to take it into like the hardware domain, I guess a lot of people have criticized WorldCoin. For various reasons, but the one that I think is the very legitimate one is that it has a centralization bottleneck because it is hardware, right? So if WorldCoin is to actually be attacked, that would probably be, and Vitalik writes about this in his excellent post recently, that would be the way that you do it. And so there's a certain challenge of we can decentralize software pretty easily, but how do we decentralize hardware? Now Helium has done that to some extent. They have, I believe, 4 or so manufacturers of the devices that work with this open protocol. I think WorldCoin is going to go down that direction eventually, but there's still a lot of challenges in supply chain security and how do you decentralize the supply chain and so forth.
Yeah, like I said, we need everything to be more modularized, than even a blockchain, because I saw Nick White is here, which will lead us to the next session. But, very good question. Thank you guys for actually coming here. And thank you so much, Jack.
Yeah,
That's a really
thanks
nice
for having me.
with you.
Yeah, nice to chat with you too.
Have a good one. Thank you.
So much.